The big question we all have at some point in our lives, am I in the will of God? Am I doing what God has called me to do? Today, we want to explore that with you, and I want to welcome you to the Apostolic Journal, where we talk about all things God. Well, it's our first episode.
Yeah,
I'm excited about it.
it's exciting. I got the pre-game jitters here.
Pre-game jitters. Yeah, you get a little butterflies in the stomach a little bit, but we're excited. But I do want to answer a question that's been on everybody's mind since they watched the promo.
Okay.
Yes, me and Amanda are in the same room together. Kevin, show him the video and prove it. There you go. Wave at the camera, man. See, we're in the same room, but we getting this prepared. It's been a fun journey, but it reminds me of one thing that sticks out through this whole thing is one day we were trying to get the sound right. And so Amanda was sitting at the computer over here where Kevin is, and she's trying to get the sound right. And she, if you know my wife, you'll get to know her through these episodes. If you don't, she pokes her head up over the screen and says, "I just have one question. Are you going to yell all the time, or are you going to talk sometimes?" And I was like, I don't know. I think I'll talk some, but I wanted to project my voice.
Wow. Already throwing me under the bus.
So, before we go to our subject today, if we are in God's will, I want to ask you a quick question, or not ask you a quick question. I want to ask you to like and subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. So if you can get on there, like and subscribe, give us a 5-star. If you give us a 5-star, we'll read it in our next episode, talk about it a little bit. But we would like you to do that. It'll help us out. It'll help us to get the word out. You know how it works, the algorithm and all that. But so getting to our question that we asked at the beginning, are we in God's will? That statement that every person has at some point, probably, if you're living for God, you're going to ask that question. Am I doing the right thing, Lord?
Yeah.
I feel like I am at times, but I haven't heard that audible voice that said, "Hey, you're doing the right thing." So we want to explore that, but I want to set the groundwork for this. The year was 2018. This was a big year for us. Amanda and I decided to go to Bangladesh. Now, this was a big decision. And the reason is, for one thing, it was expensive. It was very expensive. Yeah. And there was another problem is I shouldn't call it problem. Another situation is we have 2 young children. And they would have been around, what age would they have been around then?
5 and 2.5.
5 and 2.5.
Yep.
So going on now, it was probably, I think it was about 2 weeks, right? We were going on that trip. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks. I mean, it seemed like a lifetime when you got those 2.
Seemed like a lifetime over there.
Yeah.
Away from our kids.
And away from our kids. Yeah. So it was a big decision for us. It was something that we had to pray about. And this is where, when we decided to go and we decided to stretch ourselves and go, hey, we do want to do this. We want to see if this is God's will. This is where God began to show and confirm his will in our lives. But it wasn't until after we began to take those steps in faith.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that's what God is looking for.
Right.
I think he's looking for people who will just simply take a step of faith. They're just willing. And I think about Moses when you talk about someone who's willing to do something.
Right.
Despite their abilities, despite all the other reasons that Moses had not to go back to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And God calls him to go back to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And to facilitate this deliverance, to bring forth his people out of that land of bondage.
Right.
And, I think of Moses, though, this was probably not in his plans, right?
No, it wasn't in his plans at all.
It probably wasn't something he was staying up late at night dreaming up
mm-hmm.
for his life. He was thinking about those sheep that he was leading on the backside of that desert
mm-hmm.
in Midian, just very content to serve alongside or under the leadership of his father-in-law, Jethro.
But to think about it, too, is to go back to that place you ran from. He ran from there because he had the crime he had committed.
Yeah.
He ran from there to hide, and he thought, I'll never go back there again. I'm going to do my thing out here, live the rest of my life, and probably never even pictured going back to Egypt.
Yeah. Right. It probably was not his idea,
mm-hmm.
but it was God's idea.
Right.
And when it's God's idea,
mm-hmm.
there's just something so great about when God gives you his idea,
right.
and it's actually special
mm-hmm.
if you think about it, because no, this is not my idea of ministry. Not that I have anything against it, but this wasn't my idea. But when God shares his idea,
right.
Now that's special.
Right.
Because that tells me that he must see something in me.
Right.
If I'm Moses, he must see something that has the ability to bring forth and to facilitate this purpose,
mm-hmm.
to facilitate his will. And so, Moses has these doubts about himself, and, he questions himself, and, just paraphrasing that whole story. But, and God asks Moses a question. Moses, what do you have in your hand? What do you have, Moses?
Mm-hmm.
And Moses says, a rod. A rod. And with that rod, you can read all throughout that entire process that God did signs through that rod, and God did many, many things through what Moses offered to the kingdom, so to speak.
God gave him the tools outside of himself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was God showing Moses through these signs, through what Moses was offering and bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
God was showing him essentially, this is my will.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of that, perhaps largely the reason that Moses could do what he was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is just simply yielding yourself, and God can do something
mm-hmm.
with a willing vessel.
Right. And it takes that step of faith. It takes that extra step of going beyond what your comforts are, what your comfort zone is. You hear that a lot, and you get a lot of amens when you say that, but you still find people living within those comfort zones. And that's what we had when we decided to go on this trip, we had to step outside of our own comforts financially, demographically.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrified of flying. Yes, I admit it. Terrified of flying. That was why part of the reason when we had talked about it, that was one of my hesitations, was like, it wasn't I didn't feel it, a check in my spirit against it. It was my flesh going, oh, do not want to fly. And it was a 14-hour flight.
Yeah.
14 hours once, and then I think you fly another 3 hours once you got to Dubai. It was a long journey. But so we want to talk about is some of those steps of faith that we took and what God ended up doing, the small steps that led up our faith, that began to build up our faith, the small steps that he began to do in our lives.
Yeah. You know, and he saw what we were willing to do, despite, you know, though it may seem small, despite a fear of flying then, on your part, I should say. just to clarify.
Yeah, we got it.
You know,
we got it. I'm terrified.
If I need to say it again, I can.
Don't rub it in. But you were afraid to stand in line for some reason.
I wouldn't say afraid to stand in line. It made me nervous to stand in line.
Out of all things, she would get terribly nervous standing in line that they would not let us on the plane.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking that'd be awesome if they didn't let us on the plane, and I'd have a great excuse
not to fly.
Can't go. That's too bad. But she'll be standing in line. Do I got all the paperwork?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, they were checking this on them. Wait, do I have that? And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, calm down.
Why are they bringing me behind this curtain in this small room?
Yeah. The times they came.
You know, those things are legitimate concerns.
No big deal, Amanda.
And so, just making those preparations, though, before we ever got there, before we ever stepped foot on the plane.
Right.
And one of the ways, of course, that we prepared was through prayer.
Right.
But another way, which was a huge part of it, was preparing ourselves financially. Mm-hmm. And I think that anyone who's ever been on any type of missions trip knows what we're talking about, the financial preparation. A lot goes into that. And so many people do many different things to raise funds. One of the ways, in fact, the main way that we raised funds to go on that trip was we decided to sell some things. Mm-hmm. And by
everything.
Yes. Yes. By sell some things, I mean anything and everything.
Anything it's that wasn't nailed down to the floor. I don't think Amanda was willing to sell.
That slight exaggeration there, but
just slight. Remember that slight exaggeration.
Yeah, it is, because I remember looking at the walls, thinking, you know, I don't really like that picture anymore. I bet somebody would.
They would like that.
That would go better in somebody else's living room.
True story.
And so, honestly, it served multiple purposes for us, not just raising funds to go to Bangladesh, but it also served the purpose of decluttering our home.
Yeah.
So,
very decluttered.
You have to look at all of it on a very broad spectrum here, okay? And so we decided to sell some things. And I remember getting ready for the trip. I wanted to purchase a new luggage set. Mm-hmm. And I bought it pre-owned, you know, and honestly, I did not look at the Kelley Blue Book value of that.
No Kelley Blue Book, huh?
No. And I should have, because when I got it, it did not meet my expectations. Yeah. And, you know, going on your first trip overseas, you know, you really just want the best stuff that you can get.
Yeah.
And so it didn't meet my expectations, and I decided that I would turn right around and resell it. Mm-hmm. And I figured, you know, I just got it. I seriously doubt that it has depreciated that much.
Mm-hmm.
So when
it's not like the dealership when you take it off the parking lot, it loses 20% value.
Exactly.
That's not how suitcases roll.
No, they hold their values.
So they do hold their value in the Kelly Blue Book, huh?
So I felt very confident that it held its value over the couple days that I had
2 days?
it. Yeah. So I took it and I posted online to resell it, and I truthfully I put the price on it that I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to my amazement, someone was interested right away. And I met this person at a undisclosed location.
Bass Pro.
And
the location for everybody.
It was the sell hub. For anything and everything that you want to sell, that is the place that you go. It's very populated.
Yep.
And so I feel very safe.
Very lit up.
There are people shopping there that believe in open carry. And so I feel like a very safe,
feel very safe there,
American citizen there.
We are in Arkansas, so.
That is true. And so I meet this lady there in the Bass Pro parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I open the back hatch, and she comes back there and she looks at it, and it's like she's laying eyes on a new puppy. She loves it. And, I'm just thankful that she does love it that much. And I'm kind of surprised. And so I reach in to grab it, and I pick it up by the handle. And as I'm picking it up for her to set it on the ground, I had it, about waist high, and I'm about to put it down, and all of a sudden the handle snaps and it falls and crashes to the ground. This is like the worst case scenario for a sale, It could not go any worse. There's no way she's going to buy this. No way.
It's a hand and palm and forehead moment, like, Lord.
This is not how this was supposed to go. And so I pick it up, and I'm apologizing just profusely. I'm so sorry, and just going on and on about how sorry I am, and I apologize for this breaking, and I totally understand if you don't want to buy it, and I pick it up to put it in the back of the car because surely she's not going to want to buy it. And as I pick it up, she reaches out and tries to take it from me. And she says, no, I still want it. I said, you do? She said, yes, I still want this. And I said, okay, but the handle's broken. And she said, it's just a handle.
Just a handle.
Just a handle, right? Okay.
Yeah.
This is the most important piece of a luggage.
Yeah.
And she said, it's no big deal. It's just a handle.
Right.
And she wanted it. And so I was expecting her to offer me less for it.
Yeah. At least
and
talk you down.
I was willing to take much less because this is a horrible.
Or just give it to her.
Yeah. Just give it to her. And she hands me full price when I was asking for it. And, that may not seem like a big deal to anyone else, but to me, I saw the humor of the Lord.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah, well, and something else, I've mentioned this, is at that moment, I was still in it was a coincidence. The lady just wanted it was a coincidence. And, but through even more things that began to happen, that's when the Lord started to do these small, blessings that he gave us and began to happen is when I think it started to open my eyes, because it was just like small steps. We stepped out in faith. We said, we're going to do this, and then God began to show up and do these small things to start off with. And that was one of those things that seems small, but when you start adding them together, you start going, oh, wait, I'm on the right path. I'm going in the right direction. But you have to pay attention to those things.
Right. And it's easy to overlook the small blessings because I think that I think that we are trained. I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but I think that we are geared to look for God's blessings in this mass quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not all at once, and we'll get to that later. Sometimes it's just a little at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, another time that I think of where the Lord blessed us in a very small way was when...
Small but profound is what I always think of it.
Yeah. When we put those Polaroid cameras up for sale.
Yeah.
And we had these old cameras, kind of vintage. They looked nice still. And, you know, I thought, well, we aren't using these, and so I'm going to sell this.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up the value of them and what they're being sold for, and I priced them accordingly. And, you know, to my amazement, once again, I mean, it wasn't up for sale for very long, maybe hours, and someone wanted to meet me that day for these cameras. So I met this lady at this location, and she was very interested in these cameras. And so I take them to her. We meet, and I take them to her, and she looks at them, and she is just blown away by these cameras, and she's looking at them, and she's just admiring them. And I'm thinking, all right, good. We've got another sale. This is great. And she says, I'll take them. I mean, just right away, I'll take them. And so she hands me this wad of cash. And I thought it was a little thick for what I was asking. I do remember when I took it, I thought, that feels like a lot. And so I start counting it as she's holding the cameras just to make sure it's there so the sale can be final. And I noticed that as I'm going through and I'm counting, that I start counting past the asking price. And I mean, far past it. And so I hand her the difference of what was left. And I said, you paid me too much. Here's the rest of it. And she says, no, keep it. You need to keep that. These cameras are worth so much more than that.
And they weren't.
They weren't.
I mean,
that I know of.
We looked online.
You know, we tried to do our best research for those cameras. And she was insistent on paying me double the asking price because she said that they are worth more.
Right.
And I walked away from that sale thinking, Lord, look at you.
Right.
Look at your humor and look at your goodness.
Right.
And I was like, Lord, you are in this.
Yeah.
And it's a drop in the bucket compared to the amount that we still have left to raise.
Yeah, because this is right at the beginning.
Right. But God, you are in this.
Yep.
There is no doubt in my mind that you are in this.
Yeah, it was starting to get into that level where I was thinking this has got to be God. This is getting too how would you say it? It not a coincidence anymore, where it's like, well, this lady gave you money after you broke it right in front of her with the dry rotted handle.
Yeah.
Then you hand somebody, sell somebody a camera and they give you double the price. Normally, every time you go to sell something, normally they talk you down. Yeah, I don't like it. I'll give you, will you take this for it? Instead of, say 25, I'll give you, how about 20? I mean, that's you. Normally,
she did not talk me down.
But when you're doing the will of God, and you're doing the things of God, He will bless you, and He will show off for you. But you have to step out in faith,
right?
And that's what it takes. Is going, you know what? I don't know how this is going to happen, Lord, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to step out in faith and believe that you're going to provide.
Yeah. Another thing that the way the Lord really showed up and provided was when we put up another thing for sale.
Mm-hmm.
It was an old chair.
This is one of my favorite.
It was a chair that was given to us. People were very kind in helping us get to Bangladesh,
Uh-huh.
donating things to us for us to sell. And some of those things needed work, some TLC. We'll just say, particularly this one. And it was an old recliner.
Yes.
Or used to be a recliner. It did not recline or rock anymore.
A resemblance of a recliner.
It was the shell.
Yeah, the shell of one.
of
Sort of one.
It looks like what one is supposed to look like.
From a distance.
Yeah, but you get up close to it and you see that there are definitely some things wrong with it.
Yes. Yes.
And so we decided, we're good people, I feel like, but, and so we're not trying to sell trash, but we thought we would just put it up for sale and see what happens.
Yeah.
Who knows? Someone might find this, and one man's trash is another man's treasure, right?
Bet you the Kelly Blue Book wasn't much on this one, though.
No, this one was valued at like negative dollar signs.
I'll pay you to take it, please.
So we put this recliner up for sale. And once again, someone hit it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to come look at it. And they pulled up in the driveway. And we realized when the gentleman gets out of his truck that he is a police officer.
Got to be on our best behavior.
That's right. And so he comes into the shop and he's looking at the recliner and I'm looking at it. And I don't know what he's thinking, but I know what I'm thinking, which is, I can't believe that we put this up for sale. And so he decides to sit in it. And when he does, the chair, now let me explain, it had a really bad lean to it. And when I say lean, it did not rock back and forth, but it could easily rock side to side.
It had that bad of a lean.
It was kind of like a manual recliner. He kind of leaned over to the side and it was one that you had to recline yourself. Just, if you want to recline, just lean the chair over.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it looked like. And so he is very obviously leaning. And I'm thinking, oh, there's no way he's going to buy this chair. And he tries to pull the lever back and it doesn't recline. And it just keeps getting worse. That
It was getting more and more embarrassing. I remember not wanting to stand there and go, Amanda, you handle this one.
Yeah.
I'll step away. I got things I need to do.
Oh, got to take out the trash.
I can do something, anything.
So he tries to pull the lever back and lean back in the chair. It doesn't work. And I'm thinking this is getting bad. And so he stands up in the chair and then he leans the chair back. He pushes it over so he can see underneath it. And he gets on his hands and knees. He's looking underneath it. And I don't know what he was looking at or what he could see in there.
Yeah, this ain't a car. You can see exactly what's wrong with it just looking at it.
He's lifting the hood, basically, of this recliner and saying, what's in here that's making this thing not tick right? And he stands up and he brushes his pants off.
And we're like, here we go. He's about to tell us, forget this thing.
This is it. This is the moment. And I'm going to totally agree with you, sir. Don't take it. And before I could say anything, he says, I could fix that. I was like, excuse me?
Sorry.
He said, what? You could fix it?
Yeah.
He said, I could fix that.
Fix that?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I remember that.
And I said, oh, okay. And he gave us what we were asking for it.
Again, did not talk us down.
Did not talk us down. Now, each of these times, I was expecting someone to try and talk me down because that's what you do.
Yep.
You talk people down, especially when their stuff breaks in front of you or when their stuff is not working in front of you, like the recliner. You try and talk them down. All of these people were willing to pay full price.
Right. More.
Or pay extra.
Right.
And so that man bought that chair, and God bless you, sir, for buying that. But it's just amazing that all these little things, of how God was He was providing
Mhm.
along the way.
Yeah, and I keep bringing it up, but I can't reiterate it enough. We stepped out God's will. We stepped into His will. It was a stretch for us, and since it was His will, He began to give us, to start off with, these little signs to build our faith.
Yeah. What do you have? What do you have, Moses?
Yeah.
Let me show you what I can do with that.
Yep. And that's exactly what began to happen when we set this journey to this big step in ministry for us, which in the long run paid huge dividends, which we'll get into eventually. But it would have never happened if we would have looked at the insurmountable mountain that was in front of us of how much it's going to cost, who's going to watch our children, how is this going to work out? And all the
other obstacles that go along with that.
Right. And God is, when we made the decision, He made it clear to us, you're in my will.
Yeah.
And that's what was important. And which brings me to a thought that me and you had discussed before. And it's when Israel had come out of Egypt. So let's set the scene here of Scripture. The Israelites had just seen the plagues. They seen everything God did and performed. They seen how God worked through Moses, the things that He did through him. They go through the Red Sea. God parts the Red Sea for them. They walk through it. They come out rejoicing, singing about the Lord. Oh, how wonderful He is. Yeah. They go to Marah. The water was bitter. The Lord makes it sweet for them. Miracle after miracle after miracle. And that's Exodus 15 that it brings us up to. And I want you to read Exodus 16, and we want to talk just a little bit about this.
It says, and they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt.
So they're just out of Egypt after departing there.
And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness.
They've already forgotten what God's brought them through, what they've blessed them. And another thing to think about is when they were coming out of Egypt, they got riches. The Lord blessed them with riches. They blessed them with all these things, seen miracles, and already murmuring and complaining. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full.
Now think about that. Crazy Israel. Them Israelites are, what is wrong with them? That's easy to think that.
Yeah.
But how easy is it for us to think the same thing when we look back at our lives and we see all the blessings that He's done, and then one thing comes up? What is it exactly what we do?
Yeah.
Lord, do you even know where I'm at? I can't believe I'm going through this.
Yeah.
And we forget about all the blessings that has brought us to this point. Israel is like a perfect example of what our human flesh is. We come out of Egypt. We come out of the world. We see the blessings of God that take us to another level in life, and the amazing things that He's done, the miracles, the things He's brought us out of. And then we run into some things. What happens?
Start complaining.
Yep. Throw our hands in the air. Well, what in the world? Like this journey is just supposed to be, Santa Claus handing us everything every moment of the day. There has to be growth, and there's got to be deserts to grow in. There's got to be moments that you have to show faith.
Yeah. And I think that their perception was skewed a bit. Their perception of God and how God was using Moses, because it goes on to say, "For ye have brought us forth unto this wilderness." They knew who brought them forth.
Mm-hmm.
But they get it messed up here at this next part.
Mm-hmm.
To kill this whole assembly with hunger.
Right.
Your perception is wrong.
Right.
You got the source right. I did bring you forth.
Yep.
But your perception of me is wrong.
Yep. You've misconstrued some things. I am going to provide. I have provided. I've shown you I will provide. And then even if you read the next verse, we'll see how he even provides more.
Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no.
A certain rate per day. Only once a day you can get so much, and God would provided it every day. They were walking with him. They were walking in his will. So he provided every day, and they weren't to take more. They weren't supposed to take more than that. They were supposed to take exactly what he wanted them to take, a certain rate. And the point of that is, trust me for the next day.
Yeah.
Trust me that I'm going to take care of you the next day. I provided today. I'm not going to forget about you tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many times do we think that? We feel desperate when a situation comes, and here just the other day, he had blessed us and taken care of us. He's not going to leave us in that situation. He will provide just like he did for the Israelites.
There you go. Just like he did before, he will do it again.
Amen. Yep.
And that is powerful, because God is not trying to trick us.
No.
He is not in the business of throwing curveballs.
Right.
He wants us to hit a home run every time.
Right.
He wants us to hit the mark.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process, he's trying to build something in us, and he was trying to build something in the Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
He was blessing them in small increments, just like he was with the cameras and the suitcase and the chair. I mean, those amounts that we sold those things for, it was a drop in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
and other things. Those
Mm-hmm.
were just a few things. It was a drop in the bucket compared to that main price, or that main goal that we were trying to reach.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But God was blessing in those small increments. It was building something in us.
Right.
You know, and this was building something in the Israelites. This process of preparation,
Mm-hmm.
it will build some things in you if you allow it. It builds a deeper trust. Don't hold back. You know, we like to hoard. And I think God was trying to let the Israelites know, you don't have to hoard when I am Lord over your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't have to hoard, be a
Right.
hoarder and just keep it all to yourself. Just get what you need today.
Mm-hmm.
Just get it.
Right.
And you'll see tomorrow that just like I did today, you're going to open the flap of your tent again in the morning.
And it's going to be there again.
There it is.
My provision will be there again.
Every day.
Yep.
Every day.
Now, we wouldn't know. It was through those steps of building faith that got us, part of what got us ready for Bangladesh.
Yeah.
To work in that mission field at that moment. And if God was saying, are you going to trust me for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Are you going to trust me for what the provision?
Yeah.
Because it would have been easy to go, even in that case, you could have been like, I don't know how much that stuff was. What's $65 in the bucket of what it's going to take to go? It would have been easy to go, well, hey, that was nice. But what it began to do is, okay, he put a little bit of faith and we recognized it.
Absolutely.
We put a little bit of faith and we recognized it again.
Yep.
God is moving in this. I don't know how it's going to work out.
And I don't know when.
But he will do it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to look back even at these small increment of things to see how he began to work right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it built faith in us, and it put a charge in us that said, I am ready for God to move because I know I am walking in his will.
Right.
But it all took stepping out in faith.
Yeah.
It's stepping out into that scary road of going, as Americanized as we are, we can think that I go to church, I pay my tithes, and I do those things. You hear that all the time. And it's like, but if I step out and do something outside of that chasm, that whatever it is, that comfort zone, well, it's a scary place, but that's where you begin to see God in a miraculous way begin to move.
Yeah, it's like he takes your frame and he starts building on that frame.
Right.
It's like a church going through a building project, and it stretches them. It gets them out of their comfort zone as a church, but they through the vision that God has given that pastor, no doubt, it begins to build on the frame that's already there. And so God takes us as individuals, the frame, the Bible says he knows our frame.
Right.
And he takes our frame and he starts doing a building project on it,
Yeah.
He says, there's some expansion that can take place here. Mm-hmm. Can you give me a little room to work right here? Mm-hmm. And I'll build something on the side of that building. Mm-hmm. I see something, there's potential right there.
Right.
I can build something right there. I'm not done with that building project.
We need an amen button over there.
I feel
Brother
it.
Kevin.
I feel it.
Producer Kevin over there. We need a nice amen button when she gets going like that. Well, one thing to think about too is think of working out. To build muscle, it takes resistance. To build your spirit, to build spiritually, it takes resistance. It takes stepping out. It takes doing difficult things.
Yeah.
That's just like working out. Anything that is worth anything is going to take work. It's going to be hard at times, but that is when you can see God work. You are stepping out and God can work in those moments.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we want to encourage everybody today that's watching, that's listening, that if you step out in faith and you take that step outside of your comfort zone, God will do something special in your life and you'll begin to see him work. But you have to pay attention to the small things. You got to pay attention to the little things that he's doing and allow it to build your faith. And you'll begin to realize, I am working in the will of God. In our next episode, we're going to go a little deeper into how the Lord began to go a little bit further into showing us his provision, his dynamic provision in our lives. And we want to share even more of that with you. So God bless you and take this with you. Amen.